claims that a U.S. government covered up crash of mysterious cube-shaped object that fell from the sky in Sudan in Africa. Shamal Darfur, Sudan, August 3, 1967. A mysterious object plummets from the sky, slamming into the remote desert of western Sudan, approximately 60 miles north by northwest of Al-Fashir. Origin unknown. The object is reported to be in the shape of a cube weighing 3 tons. Can you imagine? 3 tons, cube. It's made up of smaller, tightly packed oblong cubes measuring 1 inch by 2 inches each, but the total size of the object is not reported, nor the third-dimensional measurement of the smaller cubes. The cubes are made of a soft metal, presumed to be light aluminum, yet cutting samples of it was said to be difficult. How exactly the cubes were fastened together, forming the larger cube, is unknown. The entire cube was shrouded in a silky material. There were no markings apparent on the object to identify it. No photographs have ever been made public, though it's reported that local officials did take photos. There is no description of an impact crater. The object is reported to be a satellite, but there are a number of problems with that conclusion. Satellites are not designed to survive the re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. Even when the remnant of Skylab space station fell out of the orbit and disintegrated over Australia upon re-entry in 1979, the largest piece to be recovered on the ground was an oxygen tank, nowhere near massive as this Sudan object. Aluminum melts at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. It's unlikely it would have tumbled through Earth's atmosphere from space without disintegrating and vaporizing, unless it was either protected by a heat shield of some sort, though no such shielding is reported, or if it was originally much, much larger than the object recovered. So what was this silk-like substance that the cube was covered by? Hardly the sort of material one might expect to be used as a heat shield. Re-entry vehicles such as space capsules and the space shuttle use specially engineered ceramic tiles in order to survive the extreme temperatures of re-entry into the atmosphere. Remembering the shuttle Columbia tragedy, we can see what happens to an object when the heat shield fails. It may be possible that the silk-like material was a parachute which deployed on the object's final descent. That might also explain the lack of an impact crater being reported, as if it indeed was a soft landing. But there are a few problems with that theory too. Why wasn't the material simply identified as a parachute? Where did the heat shield go? Why would an unmanned satellite be designed to fall out of orbit, and for what purpose? It costs a lot of money and takes a lot of hard work to put something that large into space. Why would you want to bring it back down? All of these questions suddenly became academic, though as we dig a little deeper and find that we could not have put that into space in the first place. If it was, in fact, a man-made satellite, how, in fact, did it get up there? To that date, there was no rocket in the world powerful enough to hoist a 3-ton satellite into orbit. The only rocket powerful enough to accomplish such a mission would have been the U.S. Saturn V rocket, which did not launch on its maiden voyage until November 9th of that same year. About 3 months after, this object slammed into the Sudan desert intact. Though now decommissioned, to date the Saturn V, the Saturn V rocket, remains the most powerful operational rocket ever built and still holds the record for the heaviest launch vehicle payload. Despite mankind's apparent technological inability to launch such a massive object, there have also been other reports of inexplicably massive satellites being observed over the years. The so-called Black Knight satellite is one such example of the phenomenon. Was this object that fell to the ground in Africa the Black Knight or something similar? It's unlikely if the United States launched such an object into space that they would also be wondering what it was and where it came from. The United States officially denies that an object that massive has ever been recovered, as we see in an alleged declassified report from the Department of State. Relevant portion quoted here. Question and answer with regard to the Soviet space objects which fell in the Middle West. Questions asked by U.S. Senate Committee on Aeronautical and Space Sciences 92D Congress, second session, staff report, May 1972. Question: have any fragments as large as these ever come to Earth from US or other Soviet satellites? Answer: we do not have any record of a US fragment or of another Soviet fragment as large as the latest Cosmos 316 fragment surviving re-entry. The largest Cosmos 316 fragment is approximately 4 feet by 4 feet and weighs 640 pounds. So is this entry story simply a myth or a hoax? So often that's what these sorts of stories are usually written off as anyway, so it would probably be easy to do that here as well. Although we do have some corroboration that the object was recovered as part of Project Moondust, but I think we can do one better. Let's go ahead and have a look at the document I found at the Defense Intelligence Agency, which contradicts State Department reports. And I originally found the document on the address which is no longer valid, DIA military, and before it was removed I made a copy of the file. Here's a screenshot of the relevant page, he says. And I'll read it for you. Department of State. Subject: satellite found in Sudan, August 67. U.S. DAG Embassy, Khartoum, which is in Sudan. Washington, D.C. priority. 1. Local press, 17 August 76, reported that a satellite cube-shaped weighing approximately 3 tons discovered 3rd of August, 50 miles from Khartoum. Satellite described as made of soft metal, presumably light aluminum, in oblong cubes measuring 2 inches by 1 inch, tightly fastened together and covered by a silky material. Nationality not identified, as no inscriptions evident on outer surface. Local authorities in El Fasher have photographs and with difficulty cut samples. 2. Recall directive published on reporting info of this nature, but all directives were destroyed. Request specific guidance or requirements, and it's got things redacted as well. This document was published on the DIA's website and fortunately copied to be passed on before being removed from the site. This is contrary to a report from the Department of State, which in 1972 stated that we do not have any record of a US fragment or other Soviet fragment as large as the largest Cosmos 316 fragment surviving re-entry. The largest Cosmos 316 fragment is approximately 4 by 4 feet and weighs 640 pounds, which is barely a tenth of the size of the cube found in Sudan. While this answers the question as to the cube's existence, it raises a new important question: what is being covered up? And this is on Bended Reality, Station Underground Blogspot. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.